Did you know that broccoli was never found in the wild? In fact, some people say it's man-made. Let's explore that and a few other things as we take a garden tour through what I call Brassica Alley. When you look at my garden, you can probably get an idea as to why it's called Brassica Alley. Partially because it's full of brassicas. Secondly, because a viewer came up with it, and I love the idea. Now you might ask, what are all these brassicas? It's cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, more cauliflower, more broccoli, more cabbage, collard greens, and Brussels sprouts. Those are all members of the Brassica family. Any story about the beginning of broccoli has to start with focusing on cabbage. Yeah, just cabbage. But not just any cabbage, wild cabbage. Gardeners years and years and years ago focused on the buds from your cabbage plants or the buds from the wild cabbage plants. And they started saving the seeds from certain plants that had better flavor and more buds. And as they developed this plant, you eventually ended up with broccoli. That's why initially when I bought all of my plants at starts, I couldn't tell one from another because essentially they looked the same until they got bigger. And of course the cabbage started forming this pattern and forming a head. Now someone asked me recently what variety of cabbage do I have, and to be honest with you, I can't say because it was just labeled Bonnie's Best. So that's the best idea I can give you as far as what type of cabbage it is. But I've had them before. They grow well, they taste great. And if you look at how the garden looks, most of them look pretty good. This one had a little bit of damage from some bugs, but the new stuff is coming along great. I fertilized it with 511 and cow manure. Haven't had a problem with it since. Well, lo and behold, I did put a label next to one of the cabbages, and it's Bonnie Hybrid Best Cabbage. So there you go. Wonder what it says here. Not too much. Not too much. So anyone that wants to know what it is called, that's exactly what the label says. It's the hybrid cabbage. Next up, my broccoli plant. Now this guy here, that's pretty decent size. I got big hands, so maybe in another couple weeks, maybe by Christmas I'll harvest him and this guy and maybe a few others, and we'll have some for Christmas dinner. But one mistake I'm not going to make is when I harvest him or her, I'm not going to harvest the entire plant. I'm going to leave the plant here and wait for side shoots to come off. I've had broccoli plants that have produced so many side shoots that if you weighed them, they would have weighed as much as the initial broccoli spear. And once you've taken the side shoots, something that some people will talk about is the leaves. Did you realize these leaves are edible? Why wouldn't it be? I mean, they come from wild cabbage. Yeah, so these guys are edible. I've heard a lot of YouTubers talking about it, but I've never seen anyone actually cook them or eat them until recently. Apparently you cook them just like you would collard greens. You might toss some seasoning salt, some ham hocks in them, or my personal favorite, turkey necks, and cook the greens up. So I'm going to get so much out of this plant. I'm going to get the main spear, the side shoots, and the leaves. I have about 12 to 18 broccoli plants. Yeah, we're going to be feasting for weeks. So give it a try. Growers of broccoli don't generally sell the leaves because these leaves don't transport well. Apparently when you pick these leaves, if you box them up, send them off to stores across the country, put them on the shelves, the leaves are going to go bad much quicker than your cabbage leaves. That's why you don't see these in the stores. But another part of the story that you probably don't hear is that it has a cousin that was similarly developed. That cousin, if I can open this one up, cauliflower. These guys here were also developed from wild cabbage. That's why if you look at the leaves from your broccoli to your cauliflower, the leaves don't look much different. Like I said, when I first bought these plants, I couldn't tell them apart. As they grew a little bigger, I could kind of tell that they were at least different plants. But with a different variety, the similarities might be even less. These leaves here are a little darker. The stem seems to have grown longer. Stem here is shorter. Leaves a little lighter. But imagine if you get a variety of cauliflower that has darker leaves, you might not be able to tell the broccoli from the cauliflower until it starts developing their heads. Now I do have another row here of cauliflower. This guy's decent, pretty decent size down there. I love the way they kind of hit up in there. They're just trying to hide and protect themselves. A little spot on that one. I might need to scrape a little bit of that off, but it's still a decent sized plant. They still have weeks before harvesting, but I'm very happy that they came through. Last spring we had a late frost. It destroyed what I had, so I got these in the ground a little bit earlier, and very happy with how they're looking. Next up are these guys here. They're cousins. You might not be able to tell from your screen, but they look so much alike until you take a closer look. More broccoli, and they're kissing cousins, collard greens. Yeah, these guys were developed from wild cabbage also. The farmers who cultivated these were focused mainly on the leaves, and they did a fantastic job. I love my collard greens. These guys are pretty decent size. I planted them when I planted my initial garden. And these guys are smaller. I planted these weeks later. And also, I grabbed some of these guys here. Any idea what these are? Guesses? These are Brussels sprouts. Yeah, they look similar to the collard greens and the cabbage and the broccoli as far as their leaves. But the reason, once again, is because they're cousins, developed from wild cabbage. The gardeners who developed these were focused on all those side buds. It's amazing that you can go from something as simple as a cabbage and end up with something like Brussels sprouts. These will get much taller and have tons of side buds that people eat that actually look like miniature cabbage. Think about that for a sec. Now, I only planted about 6 Brussels sprouts. I've had a hard time growing them the last couple times I tried to grow them. They need more cold hours or more chill hours than most of the other plants. Some of the other plants tend to get a little more damaged with the cold weather, but Brussels sprouts love it. They absolutely love it. Oh, here's another tag in case you want to know what type of collard greens I have. Bonnie's Choice again. It just says collard greens. They're probably Georgia collards. I know I bought Georgia collards before, and that's what we tend to get down here. Next up, some weeds and some spinach. Yeah, these guys are coming along real well. They were tiny when I planted them, but these guys are troopers. They'll get through the cold weather just fine. I've had 3 frosts over the last week. And if you see my plastic up here, I've had to cover it just to protect them some. Well, I hope you enjoyed my tour of Brassica Alley. That's the name that one of my viewers came up with. I want to thank her. I won't mention her name, just for privacy reasons. But I want to thank her so much. I want to thank the rest of the viewers too, for the comments, for the thumbs up, for subscribing. Speaking of which, if you want to see more of what I have in my garden, because it's not just this garden, it's a greenhouse garden, and I have a side garden. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification button. Give me a thumbs up. Maybe even give me 2. So, thanks for stopping in, and we'll see you next time. And remember, let's get out there and get a little dirty.